Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
In my mind, it's inevitable that we will have a return of the virus, or maybe it never even went away. When it does, how we handle it will determine our fate.
Doom and gloom, Fauci. It's coming back. It's leaving. It's never going. So if it's never going, then what do we do at that point in time? That's a curiosity to me right there. If it's never going, then what do we do? I mean, you heard that. Let's listen to that again. All right.
In my mind, it's inevitable that we will have a return of the virus, or maybe it never even went away. When it does, how we handle it will determine our fate.
It makes it sound like if we make one wrong misstep, if we don't do everything that we absolutely must at the behest of everybody, it's over. It's over. It's over. It's not over. I don't know what's going to happen. What I do know is a majority, and I'm not talking like 51%, 99% of people who get this will survive this. I think those numbers will even look different once the dust is settled. Doesn't mean it's not something we should pay attention to, because let's be real, there is no other story. There is nothing else that is going on at all. There isn't. This is the story. I get it. But judging by what you said, it isn't until we get a vaccine that all of this is going to be rocking and rolling. And by the way, can I just say something about a vaccine? It's very interesting when you talk about vaccines, because remember this, when it comes to a vaccine, what you need is a normal way of life. Meaning, if you give people a vaccine right now in trials, and this is one of the things that the British are looking at, is they're ramping up their trials. Oxford is ramping up their trials to the point of they want 6,000 people to get in on their trial. And they're looking for healthcare workers in a lot of places. And the reason for that is when you're sheltering in place and I give you a vaccine so you don't catch something that's out there, but you're not allowed to go out there, the chances of you actually getting it then is much smaller than if you're living a day-to-day normal life. And that's one of the problems they're having. Is part of the thing about the way that vaccines work is you give some people the vaccine test and you give some people a placebo, then they go about their normal life. Well, we're not in a normal situation. But if Fauci's saying that this thing's not going anywhere, and I've always said it's not going anywhere, then all that we're doing is hiding from it. It means, yeah, there's going to be a spike. There's not going to be a second wave. It's just going to be a continuous wave until we get a vaccine or a treatment. And who knows when the vaccine's going to come? They're trying.
So you've been reading about vaccines that sound promising in the fight against COVID-19. A university study here, a scholarly article there. Dr. Richard Besser, president and CEO of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and former head of the CDC, says don't get too excited about any of them.
None of these vaccines have been used in people, have been shown to be safe and effective against coronavirus. So I worry that some of these releases are more about stock price than they really are about science.
One of the human trials being done at Oxford won't even be complete until September at the earliest.
Yeah. But that one is humans. And it's not 10 people, 12 people. They want 6,000 people. Now, they've done some tests already on humans with that vaccine. And they've also allowed some universities over here to do trials on primates. And it's done very well. But Oxford's like, hey, we're just going to do this, and we're going to get 6,000, and we're going to run with it. But if Fauci, if you listen to him, and what he is saying is this thing isn't going anywhere, it makes you think, then what are we going to do? Because today, 4.8% in the first quarter. That is a retraction of our economy. That's a signal of recession. That we would wish would happen in the second quarter. Second quarter, the bottom falls out. So we're probably talking anywhere between 30 and maybe 40% retraction. So you put that together, that is massive. 4.8%. So the economy was robust, and then it shrank by 4.8%. Now, in the second quarter, as these numbers really start to ramp up, you're probably looking at 30 to 35%. Put it together, it's nearly 40% reduction in our economy as far as gross domestic product. That's massive. That is massive. It's huge. So based on what Fauci said, I look up and I say to myself, if that is true, and that's the way that that he thinks this thing is going to go, then we're in a much different situation, because these shelter in place, some of these things we thought, well, they'll stay on for a little while, but we'll get back to some normal way of life where maybe we wear a mask here or some gloves there, or, they'll limit certain amount of people to go to certain spaces. But no, he's even talking about there won't be sports if you can't guarantee the safety. Well, how do you guarantee safety of people? Well, because zero is not going to be, we don't do zero with the flu. And it still kills 50,000 people in America on average every year. We don't do zero with the flu. So what happens? Because the more I hear people, the more angry people are getting, the more they're starting to defy, because they're seeing their life change in so many ways, and they're now willing to defy orders across the board. Case in point, Dallas, stylist. She says, you know what? I can't do these things anymore. I got to get on with my life.
Stylist Shelley Luther has opened her hair salon in defiance of state, county, and local COVID-19 restrictions. She was given a citation on Friday, tore it up on Sunday, reopened yesterday, and now has been handed a temporary restraining order.
I'm willing to take it to whatever level it needs to be.
And she vows to open again today for haircuts and nails.
Some people are like, well, that's just such a first world problem. Maybe, but it's a problem that people have. And it's not just about that. People are scared. People are frightened. People are, and at this point in time, we've kind of all, the fear of the big bad boogeyman that is the coronavirus, that's kind of gone away. We know it's out there. Now it's, what's it doing to my livelihood? What's it doing to the economy? What's it doing to, we recognize, we see the monster. How does this affect us at certain levels? And for a lot of people out there, a good majority of people out there fall in this weird world of maybe they get a little bit of the stimulus, but they can't get unemployment, and there's a huge group of people out there, and they're frustrated, and they're looking around saying, I'm losing everything. And poll after poll, data after data that's being shown is saying again and again and again, this is what's happening, and this is how it's going to go. And it's tough, because you look at the data and you try to find some of these numbers, and we say to ourselves, over here, when it comes to the health side of it, we're going to go on hypotheticals based on these certain models where most of the data is inaccurate, and it's really not going the way that, it changes on a daily basis. Part of that's because we change our behavior, but some of it's just because it gets it wrong. Over here, when it comes to the financial side of things, they're going on empirical data that they've looked back in the past how economies have reacted. While it won't be exactly the same, it does give us more of a snapshot of how these things will take place. And you're talking about robust economies across not just America, but the globe, taking years to rebound, not months. So, yeah, there's a reason that people are defying, because they're seeing things start to get just eviscerated. Years and years of hard work going down the drains. Yeah, people are frustrated, and people are willing to take a chance, and people are willing to defy orders. Well, it's not about them. It's about other people. Well, if Fauci is saying this thing is never going to go away, obviously if we get a vaccine, it will, but who knows when that is, because some people say vaccine possibly end of next year. And even that point in time, it's not going to be 100%, and there's not 100% that we're even going to get a vaccine. Oxford's hoping that they can roll this thing out. Pfizer thinks they have something they could start to use emergency-wise, hopefully by September. Everybody's rushing. But that's also, just like you look and you see there's an arms race, this is a race to the vaccine. And as much as it has to do with being a savior of people, this is also big business and big money. It'll be interesting. But I can't look at this and say, this is how we're going to live the rest of our life. I refuse to do that. At some point in time, we're going to have to make serious decisions. And governors are going to have to make serious decisions. And we cannot continue to print money for 6 months or a year and tell people they can't work and they can't do stuff. Every month we shut down is a year it's probably going to take to get ourselves into a recovery zone. And the bigger side of that is, think about this. What's that to a place like California and New York? California, luckily, is top-heavy, and tech is doing okay. So they can afford some of the downturn in a lot of other places in the short term. But it's catching up to them because of their unfunded liabilities. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Shows your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. Hope you're doing well. I am. Look, I'm positive. I think this thing is going to play itself out. I think we're going to make serious decisions in the next 4 to 6 weeks that we may have to take this thing on in a different way. And I think a lot of people are resigned to the fact that, look, you guys are doing everything you possibly can. And at the same time, America wants to not only get back to work, but they want to get back to living. I think it's not just about money. I think it's about to living. They've been living in fear and unknown, and that's not good for anybody. It isn't. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show. Twitter. Woke up this morning, somebody said, hey, Chad, what's the name of those earbuds? I said, Raycons. I said, can you give me your little thing? I said, yeah, go to buyraycon.com/Chad. Raycon is, they're just awesome. And you're working at, how many of you are working at home right now? How many of you have kids running around? You're trying to take a phone call from your boss or an important client, or you're on, a Skype meeting or any of these meetings, and you hear noise in the background. It drives you crazy. You got the dangling wires, and every time you turn your head, your headphones come off. Get rid of those. E25's everyday use with Raycon is amazing. 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, compact design, better fit, noise isolating. You will love it. You really will. Doesn't matter if you're just looking for some peace and quiet, binge on your favorite podcast, The Chad Benson Show, or you got a conference call, a big meeting. They're going to work for you in ways you cannot believe. Stylish, cool, comfortable. Save 15%. Already start well under $100. Go to buyraycon.com/Chad. 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 Chad Benson Show.
Take a fake news break. Check out the really important news of the day at our website, ChadBensonShow.com. Once there, click on Chad's free podcast and get real. The Chad Benson Show, where truth and the American way live. Print free.
As the number of American coronavirus cases tops 1 million, the staff at one of New York's hardest hit hospitals gathering outside for a moment of unity. Soaring overhead, the Air Force Thunderbirds and the Navy's Blue Angels, saluting the essential workers who have sacrificed so much.
Yeah, across the country, they're doing flyovers. They're going to do one out here today. Luke Air Force Base, not too far here in Arizona from where I'm at. They're going to do some flyovers. It's just to say, tip the wings to the whole 9 yards, because so many people out there fighting this nasty, dreaded, whatever it is to you. For some people, it is a death sentence, as they call it. That's what they think it is. For others, they call it just a flu. Some people call it a hoax. The reality is it's not a hoax. It's very real. It's not a death sentence. But the great disruptor that this is is amazing. And it is a huge disruptor. And the question is, when is it going to stop disrupting? That's the billion-dollar question. The trillion-dollar question is what happens next. Every small business person I talk to says the same thing. I can survive this one. It's the next one. And I'm not talking about the next virus. They're talking about the next time that, let's just say, May, we get through and it really starts to go, okay, we're feeling good about ourselves. The numbers are down. This thing seems to be dwindling, and it's almost non-existent by the end of the month. And if you've ever seen the way that things like this work, go and look at the way that the Spanish flu worked. That last wave, within about 20 days, went from devastating to gone. But is there going to be another wave? And what do states do? Because once people get outside and they start living their life and they realize, start to come up for air, and they look around and they're starting to realize, wow, this thing did a ton of damage, not just to the healthcare industry in certain parts of the country, but to our numbers financially, and that people are going to realize, uh-oh, what do you mean you don't need me for 40 hours a week? You only need me for 20. But I thought then it's become a realization that this thing is going to be a hard-fought battle to get back. And when the next time, the next wave, as Fauci says, comes, how do you put that genie back in the bottle and tell everybody, nope, sorry, you guys got to go back indoors again? That's going to be tougher than this. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me. You can text the program as well. It's Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The United Food and Commercial Workers International Union says President Trump's order forcing meat processing plants to remain open puts workers' lives in jeopardy. Jan McComb is the commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Health.
At a time when we're seeing such explosive increases in numbers of cases and the impacts on surrounding communities, it seems problematic.
According to the union, 20 food processing workers have died of COVID-19 nationwide. More than 6,500 have already been sickened or exposed to the virus.
Yeah. Are we going to have a meat shortage? What? Is that going to happen? Is people worried about? And it's not because we don't have enough meat. They don't even know what to do with the meat at this point in time. They don't. Trump decided, hey, I got to make sure that we take care of this stuff. So we're going to have the Meat Defense Production Act.
President Trump using his authorities under the Defense Production Act. Those plants must remain open. Many of those plants have become among the major hotspots in the pandemic in the United States. Thousands of meatpacking workers have come down with the disease. At least 19 have died. And this now will compel them to remain open.
We like meat. People running out buying meat, toilet paper, all this. It's running out. But people just take a deep breath. Has nothing to do with over demand. There's a lot of demand right now. In fact, was it last week, Tyson, or the week before, because of the cancellation of March Madness, they had too many chicken wings. Bought a bunch of chicken wings. My lizards love chicken wings. It's perfect size for them to gobble down the bone, the whole 9 yards. But too much. So people are going to go overstock. It has to do much like when you see oil and gas. Has to do with the refineries. It's the actual facilities themselves. It's kind of a weird, condensed, concentrated industry. So when one place has an issue, that's a big thing.
The president responding to the possibility, the very real possibility, that America's food chain would break, that in just a matter of weeks there would be no meat on grocery store shelves. Not a matter of supply, but of distribution, because there is great concentration in the meatpacking industry. Just a few plants going down can bring that food chain to a halt.
And you've seen that in places here in the West Coast where a refinery goes offline for a couple days, gas prices rise when they switch over to different blends, and sometimes when there's an issue and they go down for a week or two. What ends up happening? That chain is broken. Same thing on the East Coast in certain areas and throughout the South and the Southwest and through Texas and stuff. You have a chain, and when it gets disrupted, doesn't mean there's not enough of it. Doesn't mean there's an overdemand of it. It just means it's getting it to you. And people panic. But closing, opening, the Tyson meat plant's a big one. And if you watch, I was watching some of the meat plant the other day. Meat Plant. Good name for a band. What's up, everybody? Meat Plant. And Meatloaf's cousin. So they're side by side, like shoulder to shoulder in these facilities. That's also an issue. When you look and see who is paying the biggest price when it comes to this disease, prisons, hotspot. Why? Side by side, crammed in, confined space, tons of hours. Nursing homes, don't go anywhere, confined space, people with underlying conditions. And when I saw the way that they were working, I was like, whoa, that's insane. I mean, I knew they were close. I didn't know they were that close.
This is about the people that work there.
Gary Harris is a 20-year employee of the now-shuttered Tyson meat plant in Logansport, Indiana. He's worried his health and that of his coworkers are being unnecessarily endangered.
Before they talk about reopening, they should make sure safety is first.
The United Food and Commercial Workers Union, or UFCW, says 20 workers have already died of the virus. But with meatpacking plants around the country facing slowdowns and closures, those working there are now considered to be essential employees.
How do they do it, though? That's just it. How do they make sure that they're safe? Social distancing is something that they talk about. It's tough.
Not every job can be socially distant in a plant.
Mark Lauritsen represents meat processing plant workers for the UFCW. He says Washington has a responsibility to protect the workers as well as the companies.
They took a step that said, we're going to have these plants open and operating and running. They got to take the next step to making sure enforceable OSHA standards, enforceable standards from the CDC.
Absolutely. They have to make sure. And it's very interesting because when you really think about it, think about your job. And this goes back to another situation that we've talked about with the confined area is side by side next to each other. So where I am, I'm in my studio by myself. I do another show and I'm in the studio 5 feet away from my other on-air partner. And through the glass, we have our producers. My producer for my national show, Anthony, Sacramento, California. I'm in Phoenix. My technical producer, Phil, Arlington, Virginia. I'm here. I see very few people. Even when everything's up and running, if you walk through an average office, you're not on top of each other. You've got cubes. This is shoulder to shoulder. And that is a scary thing when you go about, wow, I see how certain things spread. That's why you look at New York. What is New York? How is New York different than a place, say, like where I am, Phoenix or Cedar Rapids, Iowa, or Orlando, or even Dallas? Building out, not up. You look at New York on a regular day, pre-coronavirus, hundreds of thousands of people side by side walking down a street, getting in elevators, getting out of elevators. You juxtapose that against a place like Dallas or Cedar Rapids where you see your family, you go to work, unless you're working in a meat packing industry where you're side by side in a manufacturing, chances are you're going about your day and you're not on top of each other. And it shows you those confined spaces are truly a hot spot when it comes to the spread of this thing. So don't panic. I don't think it's time to panic at all. They'll tell you, don't panic.
I know everybody's saying that you should panic, but I don't think you should panic. If you want to feel a little more comfortable, buy a few more steaks, buy some more cans of tuna fish and beans and so forth for your pantry. But I don't think there's any reason to panic right now.
Yeah, that's Stu Leonard Jr., who's a businessman, CEO of Stu Leonard's big supermarket chain, saying, hey, everybody calm down. We're going to be all right. We're going to be okay. And I think that's what we need to start getting back to. We're going to be all right. We're going to be okay. Everything is we're going to get through this. The panic doesn't do us any good. Nobody makes a good decision on crazy emotions, right? Have you ever done something that's just based solely on an emotion, and then you wake up the next day and you're like, why did I do that? Why did I just based solely? Why? And that's why panicking, and we need to learn how to take a step back and breathe, which a lot of times we don't. And that's why we get into situations we get into.
Coronavirus kept Americans indoors and commerce largely shut down. The U.S. economy contracted by 4.8% last quarter. The quarterly drop in GDP is the first in 6 years, and it was the sharpest fall since the fourth quarter of 2008, when the economy shrank by 8.4%. Many economists believe this is only the beginning, though, since the latest Commerce Department report covers January through March. More businesses shut down in April, and layoffs came by the millions.
Yeah. So what does that look like the next time we roll this out for second quarter? I think what we look at is probably 30%, 35%, some people are saying, but maybe it's 20, 25%. Still probably combined anywhere between 30 and 40% contraction in our economy in the first quarter and second quarter combined. Now, economists are thinking third quarter is going to pick up, and you might get half of that back in the third, and maybe, so you get 15% back in the third with a spike, albeit, it's not going to be 30%, and then maybe another 5 to 7%, maybe even 10% in the fourth. So overall, year to year, the contraction may only be 5%, but this second quarter coming up that we're in the midst of is going to be the ugliest we've ever seen, probably worse than anything we saw since the Depression. The difference between the Depression then and now is we're in a situation where we had a good foundation. It wasn't built on a house of cards. The foundation is good. And while it'll take a while to get back, we will jump back quickly in 2 quarters to make it so it doesn't look as devastating. It's like you drop, you want to lose 35 pounds. You drop 25 easy. Those last 10, though, no matter what it is, that doesn't seem to come off. That's going to be the tough thing, getting back to where we were. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. You can text the program as well. Wounded Paw Project is an amazing organization. I've been working with them going on about a year and a half. God, that's a long time, actually, much longer than that. But just an incredible organization that does something that is just so amazing. They rescue dogs, so dogs that would otherwise be euthanized, and train them. They take them from shelter dogs and turn them into service dogs. And it's a lot of work. I saw a guy yesterday training a service dog, and that's a lot of work, especially when they're young, because the service dog in training wasn't having any of it. He took off for running. The old guy was chasing him. And I'm like, that's a lot of work. Wounded Paw does that work. And what do? They get those dogs to the people that need them. Our first responders, our veterans, and their families. They could use your help. Now, you can go to smile.amazon.com. You can set your supporting group to Wounded Paw Project. You can also give cash. You can go to woundedpawproject.org, find out how you can do that. But see all the great works they're doing. Their motto is to save a paw is to save a life. And I'm telling you, they're doing so much. They're saving animals, and they're giving them a second chance at life, and they're helping our first responders, veterans, and their families. Woundedpawproject.org. Woundedpawproject.org. Chad Benson Show.
Don't let the Washington Beltway strangle you. This is where the exhausted majority comes to refuel, realign, and reevaluate. This is Chad Benson.
Word came Tuesday that Universal's release of the sequel Trolls World Tour direct to at-home streaming was a success, a move made because theaters are closed and people just need stuff to watch. The victory prompted NBC Universal CEO Jeff Shell to tell the Wall Street Journal that the move was so successful, as soon as theaters open, he expects to release movies both at home and in theaters, which angered AMC, the largest theater chain in the world. CEO Adam Aron writing a letter to Universal calling the plan unacceptable and saying it will no longer show Universal movies in its more than 1,000 theaters worldwide. That is, when theaters reopen, which might not be until July, at which point AMC and Universal might have made up.
Yeah, I think they will. And it's not going to be everything when it comes to movies, but they've toyed around with this idea for a long time. Trolls has done extremely well. It's doing better than the actual first movie did as far as its run at the box office. Why wouldn't you? And they're talking about movie theaters opening up across the country slowly but surely, starting this weekend in some states like Texas, and who knows what other states might start to, over the next 24 hours, open up their economy a little bit. There's no movies, though. There's no movies out there. None. That's why we joked earlier this year. Earlier when this thing first started, when they started closing everything, I said, if they have the Oscars next year, which I think they will, it's going to be, the best movies are going to be the only 6 movies that came out. You're going to have like The Invisible Man. You're like, what? Oh, yeah. The Invisible Man's going to be nominated for some movie magic. You had a few other like cartoons that came out. People are like, oh my God, you're right. Birds of Prey. That was a DC movie. Now they're going to probably start to release some stuff, and you could see a flood in the second half of the year, but that doesn't mean people are going to be going to the theaters. So the Oscars decided, okay, we just can't have like these 8 movies that came out, and we're going to have to cancel it, or we're going to have to figure something out. So they said, all right, just once.
And the Oscar goes to...
For the first time ever, streaming movies will be eligible for an Academy Award.
Parasite.
Before this year, the rules stated that a film must play in a commercial theater in Los Angeles for 7 straight days with 3 screenings a day to be considered. But because that's not possible right now, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences is softening its stance. All films that had a planned regular release but went straight to streaming instead during the coronavirus shutdown will likely be able to compete for an Oscar. But when the theaters open back up, the rules will go back to normal.
Like how cool it is, like 7 days in Los Angeles. Nowhere else. 7 days in L.A. 3 times a day. So that's why they say when limited release, you'll say, our movie's not even out yet. It's out in Los Angeles. So they'll play at like, Grauman's Chinese or one of the places. They'll play for just 7 straight days, small screen, like a 10 in the morning, 5 in the afternoon, 10 o'clock at night, just to get that opportunity to be counted in as an Oscar. And they look at it, too. They look at this year's, because they go so far out. I don't think you guys understand. So the way movie industry is, they'll pick a release date sometimes before they even had the script finalized of what they're going to do. We're going to release this, and you can go and see that there's releases like such and such has a relief, no title. So it's like you've got a release date with no title name? Yeah, they may not even started filming it. So some movies will look and say, you know what, we're going to push our release date till next year because this year is too strong and this is more of our award-winning film as opposed to a lot of other stuff that's out there. So you can pick and choose. And this is the kind of year where you got a chance. And I'm interested because there's some interesting stuff. I think Netflix and a few other movies, a few other of the services, especially Netflix, has produced some really good things and has gotten overlooked even when they followed by the rules. And part of that is because they're an outside player in the industry and they've changed it. And when you come in and change something, you make the old, it's new money versus old money kind of thing. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. I know haircuts are the first thing people want to do when they get out of social distancing. It's like one of the number one things people want to do. For me, I want to get my popcorn, my hot dog, my drink, sit down and watch a movie in the theater. I miss that. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
In the first quarter of 2020, the U.S. economy shrank by 4.8%, beyond the expectations of many economists and the largest quarterly decline since 2008. This is the first negative gross domestic product report in 6 years, but it only reflects a part of the coronavirus impact. GDP for the second quarter, which covers April when shutdowns and layoffs really took hold, is expected to be worse.
Ooh, yeah. Tiny, just a smidge of what's to come. When we come out of this, everybody's going to look around and start to go, okay, how far am I digging out of this avalanche? Some people pop up. Some people avoided the avalanche altogether. Some people are going to be digging for a long time and don't really know at this moment in time. They've been shielded from it because they're getting unemployment. They're getting that extra $600. So they're thinking, okay, well, when we return back to normal, whatever normal is, I'm going to get my job back and we'll be right back where we were and I'll be okay. And they're going to find out, well, hold on a second. We don't need you for that many hours. Oh. We don't need you for the 40 hours at this moment in time because we don't have as many people coming and purchasing our widget as before. And that's when I think you're going to feel first we got the jab and then we're going to get the big right cross or left cross, depending on which side you are, whether you're southpaw or not. Some people have a sense of, well, everything is good. I'm good. I'm good here at this moment. I'm getting this and I'm getting this and we'll be fine. That's not the way it's going to go. The way it's going to go is some people recognize that they're in some trouble. Other people are going to start to recognize not only are they in trouble, but it's just beginning. And what's that look like? And this is all before we get to the point where there could potentially be that dreaded second wave. Oh, no. Yeah. Before any of that, there could be a dreaded second wave, which business owners are looking out there, and all of the business owners, and I talked to several small business owners throughout the day, many of them feel that as long as it looks like By June, they'll be up and running. They're going to be able to withstand this. It's the not hearing enough of what happens when there is a surge, because we're going to be back out there again. So naturally, you would think there would be a bump in the number of people getting this. And at what point does that go from, oh, we need to watch this and be careful and wary, to everybody back to the way it was in March and April? That's the thing that scares so many small business owners right now, is they're starting to see light at the end of the tunnel as far as emerging from the closure of everything to, okay, but what happens next when there is another second wave or surge of the first wave? And is it a first wave that never goes away? That's a possibility. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. And I say that because of this.
In my mind, it's inevitable that we will have a return of the virus, or maybe it never even went away. When it does, how we handle it will determine our fate.
Yeah. Well, our fate makes it seem a little dreaded, but it isn't going anywhere. And that's the way, like, a lot of people have been approaching this. It's funny when you watch the way that the data comes in, people who go against who the media love and the way that they think that this should be handled. They're kooks, they're weirdos, they're wackos, they're nut jobs, or they're just contrarians. They're contrarians with data. Not all their data is correct, but there's also, everybody thinks that all the data over here on this side of whatever is going on, the Faucis of the world, that their data is perfect, and it's not. I always harken back to what the astronauts said at NASA during the space race when they were first getting up there in the race is garbage in, garbage out when it comes to data. Because data is only as good as the numbers and the figures and the things that you're putting in there. But they're all hypothetical. When you have, on the other side, empirical data that points to, hey, this is how things have gone in the past, and it seems to be pretty much steady, and it kind of repeats itself at times over and over again, and we can learn from some of these things. So Fauci there saying, well, it may never go anywhere. Well, I think a lot of people thought that. I've said that we're not eliminating it. We haven't found a treatment for it. What we're doing is we're hiding from it, and then we're building up what they think will be an arsenal to take it on when it comes back in the fall, or if it ever goes anywhere. Oh, yeah, but it's still out there. The difference is when we release the hounds, allow people to go back out there and get back to their daily lives, still recognizing, and I think for a lot of people, it's just going to be natural right now because they've been inundated with everything you touch could be the end of your life, that social distancing is still going to be in place in a lot of ways, which will slowly, hopefully, it'll leave and we'll get back to, hey, being able to hug somebody or say hi or being in the same room with somebody without having to wear a mask. But if it comes back, how do we get out of it without having to tell everybody to go back inside? There's two ways. There's a vaccine and there's treatments. Those are separate things. Gilead today announced that their treatment that they've been working on. So the treatment is, you've got it, you're sick. Here is a therapeutic treatment. You get the flu, you get a Z-Pack. That's the way that goes. That's showing real promise. The vaccine is very interesting. You've got this is a race to find out who can come up with something amazing. So you've got Oxford that is throwing everything. I mean, they're throwing everything at it right now.
One of the most promising vaccines in the world is moving quickly into large clinical trials at Oxford University. 6 monkeys given the vaccine at a facility in Montana did not contract COVID-19 when exposed to it and remained healthy for 28 days. Monkeys that were not vaccinated consistently fell ill. There's of course no guarantee that it'll work, but more than 6,000 volunteers are now coming forward to join Oxford's human trials that began last week. They're scheduled to be completed in September.
Which is very interesting. And they're going straight to not 1 or 2 small test groups, Oxford. They're going to 6,000 people. And one of the things they've said that's been tough to do is finding people who are going about their day-to-day lives. Because if I give you a vaccine and you go inside and shelter in place and never really come in contact with anybody, it's hard to see if that vaccine works because you're not really putting yourself in a position where you're going to be at risk. And that's what they want. You to be at risk to see if the vaccine actually shields you from said thing, the coronavirus. Different than a treatment. Then you've got Pfizer, who is rushing fast, and they think, hey, we got something here that's real when it comes to a vaccine.
2 exciting things about what Pfizer is doing. They are collaborating with a German biotech company, so more hands on deck will hopefully expedite the process. And they're also hoping to get emergency use authorization by fall for a vaccine.
So they think they're getting close to a vaccine. An emergency access for people so you can go, and if they get the okay, that means boom, they can start giving this to people, which would be huge. I mean, that's what we want, right? Like the way that we get back to where we were, which is what everybody talks about, the good old days, February. We get back there by how? Well, we have a therapeutic treatment. We have herd immunity. Or we have a vaccine. Right now, we don't have herd immunity. Or do we? It's kind of hard to say. I mean, New York, that may be getting to the point where that's true. We don't have a vaccine and may not get one. These things may just, you don't know. And a therapeutic treatment, we're trying a lot of them. But at this moment in time, we don't have any of those. So until we get that, even if they said we can open things up, there's a lot of people out there that are afraid to go back to work, afraid to go out and spend money, and afraid to be in public areas. That does not bode well for moving past this and then getting an economy going. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. You can tweet at us. I think the first thing we will have is therapeutic treatment. I think we'll have a therapeutic. We might even have 2 therapeutic treatments by the time this thing's said and done. But I at the beginning of the month, I said within the next 45 days, there's going to be 1 or 2 therapeutic treatments that show, hey, if you get it and you get in real trouble, this is the lifesaver. Because a good majority of us, remember, will get it. And much like a flu, you may not even have to go in to see a doctor. You may never even know about it, but you can fight it off at home. But it's when it gets to that point that everybody wants to know that there is a treatment. And that makes people feel better. It won't return everything back to normal because there's still a lot of people out there that are terrified. And I understand that. But that is a huge helper. Because I think once we get that or a vaccine, it's all hands on deck. Get back to life. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Twitter. Car Shield. Here to protect you in a different way. Say your car has an issue. Got a newer car. You got all the electronics, the wiggity wonks, the whoop, the boop, the this. Something goes out. That's expensive. Those fuses and everything, super expensive. Maybe your car's a little older. You don't have that, but you worry about your transmission. You worry about a few other things. Car Shield has affordable protection plans that can save you thousands in covered repairs. Starting at low as $99 a month, they'll tailor fit a plan that fits you. With it, you get 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for free while your car's in the shop, and the shop is the shop that you choose. You pay a small deductible, but they get them paid directly. That's what I love. Again, $99 a month. That's where their plans start. Call them up, 800-CAR-6000. Mention code Benson, saves you 10%. But you tell them, hey, I need this. This is what I'm worried about. They've got the plan that's right for you. 800-CAR-6000. Use code Benson. Or go to carshield.com, carshield.com. Use that code Benson. Save yourself 10%. A deductible may apply. Chad Benson Show.
No fake outrage here. Just the real thing. The Chad Benson Show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old internet. What's trending? Oh, let's take a look here. It's trending around the world of the internet. Start first and foremost in the magical world of Twitter. Normally, you just get people saying horrible things. We're like, hey, you know what'd be great is to hear everybody's thoughts in real time. And they're like, I got a great idea. We're going to do this. Because everybody's got nothing but happy thoughts, only to find out that most of the world apparently is angry. Do not open California, hashtag is trending. Pence is an idiot. NCAA football is trending. They're having NCAA is having a big meeting today because now that the athletes have won the fight when it comes to their likeness in video games, may not be coming back with NCAA. So they don't know what to do. They're kind of perplexed. Maybe the NCAA says today that, hey, you know what? We're going to allow them to profit, but they can't get their or receive their money until they're out of college, whether they go to the NBA or whatever it is, or the NFL, but they can't receive any of their money until then. And part of the fun of playing these games is getting your player, and then how fast is he? How good is he? It's going to be different now. So we'll see. Top of that, hump day, obviously. Gilead is trending because I'm going to try to say this. Remdesivir is showing promise as a potential treatment during its study for the coronavirus. Irfan Khan is trending. He's a huge Bollywood star, but he was also in Slumdog Millionaire, Life of Pi, Jurassic Park, passed away today. Massive star. People have no idea. Like, I was talking to my uncle because some of the stuff that we do is for Bollywood people, and you have no idea how massive these stars are over there. It's incredible. And he passed away at age 53. Head on over to Google. Much of the same. Irfan Khan, asteroids. Right, we have huge asteroid passing. Supposed to be the biggest asteroid we've seen in a while. Modern Warfare update is trending big time as well. Lots of stuff trending. And a lot of video games, man. Try finding a video game console right now. It is tough. It is tough to find one at this moment in time. Some places have them, some they don't. Because I was like, maybe I'll get a PlayStation, because I got Jack one. And I said, well, I'll get one too, and we could play some games. We could play Fortnite, talk on the headphones. Because that's how you do it with your kids now. It's just like, I know you don't want to talk to me, so I'll have to join in your Fortnite thing so I can. Now I just specifically want to go get him. Just it angers him. It's okay, though. He's with his mom. I'll get a text message. Stop killing your son in the game. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Fauci saying we may have to go without sports. What? I was talking to a couple of our sports guys around here yesterday because the NBA is they're feeling like they were going to open some facilities here in the next few days. They were tossing the idea around, and I don't think we can do that. But they're looking, right? They're looking at getting out there and starting to get this thing rolling again.
A week away from the possibility of facilities opening, on a very limited basis for players to go in and shoot. And as one GM said to me yesterday, if we need a 15-page memo to get one guy in and out of the building in an hour so he could shoot, just get shots up alone, maybe the timing's not right.
Yeah. By the way, what you guys didn't hear is Phil and Mayor going, a week away, a week away, a week away. Solid. Yeah, timing may be off here. I recognize that for that may be off. And the NBA, the best thing the NBA can do now is to come out and say, freeze the standings and say, these top 6 teams, you guys are automatically in the playoffs. Everybody else, there's going to be a neutral site. There's going to be play-in tournament for the final 2 in each conference, and then go from there. That's probably the best thing. The NHL, I don't think, is coming back. The NFL, it's very different. I think if the NFL didn't start, that changes so much for a lot of people. Starting late, not so much. No college football, no NFL. That's huge. Fauci said safety for the players and for the fans trumps everything. He said Trump. He said if you can't guarantee safety, then unfortunately you're going to have to bite the bullet and say we may have to go without sports for this season. What sports can do for human beings is something that I don't think a lot of people realize. We take sports in so many ways for granted. They're big babies, they're this, that, and the other. They're, all these guys make all this money. It's just a game. Let me tell you something. There's a lot more to it than just that. It's comfort food. It makes us feel good. There's just something about the game, the ebbs, the flows. It's the last real human thing that's on television that isn't reality TV or scripted. It's something that is just very primal and real. And it brings us joy. And at times it frustrates us and it brings us happiness and it disappoints us. It is so many different things. And it's much bigger than I think people realize until it's gone. But I go back long time, 40 years ago. We were struggling as a nation. I mean, it was ugly. Recession, oil prices through the roof, hostages in Iran. America seemed to be losing the Cold War to the Soviets. We were as down and out as it gets. And some 20-some kids came together for 6 months, trained. Nobody paid any attention. We were hosting the Olympics at Lake Placid, upstate New York. College kids, mostly from Minnesota and Wisconsin and a few other little places. But they got together, played a bunch of exhibition games here and there, got smoked by everybody. And about 2 weeks before they were heading to the Olympics, they played the Soviets, got crushed. Went into that Olympics, first game, got lucky. And then from there on out, picked up steam, momentum. And then they played the Soviets, arguably the best team in the world, professionals, even though it was all supposed to be amateurs, professionals. All they did was play hockey. That's it. The best players on earth, the best goalie in the world, this was the team. Down 3-2 in the third period. Came back, won the game 4-3. Went on the next game 2 days later to defeat the Finns, win the gold medal, and change so many people's feelings in this country. Gave us something. Sports is huge. It is. Not only is it big business, but there's something about it, the way it excites. I mean, we saw Kobe Bryant earlier this year die in a helicopter crash, and you saw the emotions of people across the country. They're debating right now this huge thing that's going on with Michael Jordan because it's part of who we are. We grow up with it. Super Bowl is a national holiday here. Those kids in upstate New York defeating the vaunted Soviets in a time when our country needed it the most. So to go without sports for a year, and I understand what Fauci's talking about, says a lot about us because while I understand where he's coming from, you also have to understand how big these things like the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball is to us as a pastime, as what we do, as how we gather, as how we, in many cases, put differences aside from the red and the blue and the black and the white and the conservative and the progressive. It's a great uniting force. And that is something I think people forget. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at me. You could text the program. Love hearing from every single one of you. So earlier I tried to say this name.
The makers of the flu drug remdesivir say they're expecting promising news from the National Institutes of Health when it outlines the results of a government-run trial of the drug's effectiveness as a treatment for coronavirus. The study of remdesivir involved 800 patients, but neither they nor the doctors knew who got the drug and who got the placebo. So unconscious bias should have no effect on the conclusions. An earlier study of remdesivir conducted in China was stopped because it was difficult to recruit patients. Aaron Katursky, ABC News, New York.
Remdesivir. And I was telling the guys, so the way that it says spelled in one place and another place is totally different. But that is a treatment, not to be confused with a vaccine. Treatments and vaccines are separate. A treatment is when you already have it. A vaccine is you don't want to get it. Treatment, vaccine, totally different. But they're showing real promise in this. And a few of the vaccines that they're trying to roll out as fast as possible have shown some decent promise. And to give you an idea, when we talk about, the vaccine, because I'm learning way too much about stuff that, it's nice to know. And I did a lot of research long before this because I'm just a weirdo. But you get to the point where you're finding out, you're reading just gobs of stuff. But the process to get to human trials is arduous. I mean, it is insane. You've got to do this and you've got to do that. The monies that go into it. And you only have to just the wheels start to shake a little bit and they'll stop it down. And by that time, these companies have risked hundreds and millions and at times billions of dollars before they ever get to even trying it on a primate, let alone a human being. So the fact that they have sped things up and really juice this thing is pretty mind-blowing. So you've got the Oxford study, which they're looking for 6,000, but they said the problem is they want 6,000 people that are in the workforce working on a day-to-day basis, and they would like healthcare workers because their exposure, and that's what you want in a vaccine, is you want exposure to see if not you can stop people catching it. You sitting in your home all day is probably not going to expose you to stuff. Treatment, though, totally different. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. So there was a kerfuffle yesterday. I say the word kerfuffle. And it had all to do with what? A mask. Why didn't he, being the vice president, wear a mask? He was at the Mayo Clinic. Why didn't he wear a mask? He should have worn a mask. It was a kerfuffle. I always laugh about that. I'm like, I look and I say to myself, all right, should he or shouldn't he have? You know, Trump, he's like, that's not a good look. And I said, when I saw Nancy Pelosi with the mask, I thought, you know, Trump was right. You could say, like, there's just something about your leaders, because you want your leaders to be in a different position than you are, right? You want your leaders to have a certain appearance of strength. And I didn't have a problem with it. A lot of people did. A lot of people, were upset. A lot of people, oh my God, I can't believe it.
It angers me that we have to be out here. It angers me.
We have to wear a mask. Yeah, a lot of people have to wear a mask.
That people aren't, wanting to take care of the vulnerable in our population.
Really? That's what it angers you because you're not wearing a mask? Yeah.
I'm not concerned that I'm not wearing a mask either.
See, you get some people who don't want to. I think for the average person, I get. You go out there and you're out there in the world and you're living your life and the mask feels weird, but they ask you to do it. So you especially going to certain places and it's about other people, and I get that. But when it comes to our leaders, I think Trump was right about something. There's a certain appearance that you want to give off, and I had no problem with it. Everybody else seemed to. People were throwing a fit. They were apoplectic. They were nuts. Oh my God! No face mask. No face mask. No face mask. Why no face mask? Why no face mask? What's he need a face mask for? Everybody around him's tested. Well, he's in a place where he may get it. That's true. He's also got the best doctors around. He'll be fine, or he won't. But that's the decision that he's making. And, well, he shouldn't be. He's like the rest of us. He's not like the rest of us. Let's just make that clear. He's not. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Speaking of face masks, how about this? It's no longer a thing of the future. CDC and say, hey, you need a face mask. Well, guess what? Boomer Naturals is a full-service wellness company, and they provide products and services that enhance your well-being and increase your quality of life. And right now, they've got amazing deals. So a lot of people are making masks at homes, bandanas, things. They're not effective. You're trying to protect not only you think yourself, but other people. And so Boomer has done some amazing things. So the masks they have are the best you can get, right? They're incredible. They're a 30-day face mask, protects you from 92.2% of everything that's out there. Little soap and water. You can clean them. They're available in children's sizes as well as adult sizes, variety of colors. I had some sent to St. Mary's. Boomer Naturals was sent like 1,500 over to St. Mary's Food Bank here in Phoenix. They absolutely love them. These same masks are also being used in hospitals in some countries for their effectiveness, places like Vietnam and several other places. And again, 30 days, you get 30 uses out of this. They're incredible. 65% cotton, 35% polyester, blend material. Each layer is treated to be antibacterial and antiviral. It's awesome. There's an exclusive deal right now. Use code CHAD20, and save 20%. Plus, you can get free shipping on all orders over $50. That code's CHAD20 at boomernaturals.com. Take your family's health into your own hands and order your 30-day mask now at boomernaturals.com. Promo code CHAD20. Boomernaturals.com. Promo code CHAD20. Chad Benson Show.
You go, boy.
This isn't about right or left. This is just about right and wrong.
Right you are, Chad. The Chad Benson Show.
If I could say one thing to Republicans who are listening, look, this election coming up is one where I hope that a lot of people will put the country first and try, even in this time of extreme partisanship, to try to set that aside and look at what is at stake here. I mean, seriously, we're really in trouble with the kind of performance in the Oval Office we've had. We've got to change that. I know that sounds partisan, but it's more than that. It's way more than that.
That's Al Gore. It's not partisan, right? It's bipartisan. Join my team, even though you don't believe in any of the things I believe in, because it's the right thing to do. It's a tough thing. That's a tough thing to get people to buy into, Al. I'm sorry. But it's more than that. I know I sound like what I'm telling you not to be, because I am. Here's the thing about Trump. Re-election is here. He's got 10% of the people that he needs to convince to come to his side. If you go and look at his approval, they don't move. They don't budge. They kind of stay right around there. They go up to 48, maybe down to 44, down to 42, up to 49. But that's about 44, 45%. It just kind of hovers around there, depending on which poll you're looking at. But it's always in the 40s somewhere. Normally, president comes in, they're coming in at 60 or 70% approval rating, and then it slowly but surely tanks. Trump comes in that 40 range, and it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't. And bipartisan is not going anywhere, ever. They're already talking about investigations, for the love of sweet Jiminy Cricket. Yesterday, Biden got his biggest endorsement yet.
Really thrilled to have my friend, the former senator and former Secretary of State, and the woman who should be President of the United States right now, Hillary Clinton.
I want to add my voice to the many who have endorsed you to be our president. Think of what it would mean if we had a real president, not just somebody who plays one on TV, but somebody who gets up every morning worried about the people that he's responsible for leading during this crisis.
Yeah, Hillary's endorsed him. That's good. That's a win right there. But what's he bring, by the way, Joe Biden? That's a good question. Mark Cuban.
Vice President Biden has been too silent. He's been too quiet. He's not really offering solutions in a way that builds confidence.
No, he's not offering anything. Everybody else's ideas, he picks up on. Oh, yeah, I like that over there or that. What you said, we'll do that. It's. What are you bringing that's different? It's not like they bring it, at least Trump brought some different stuff. He was an outsider. He was loud. You don't have to like him, but you could say, well, that's different. Biden is he's a parrot. Anthony and I were talking about this, producer Anthony and I, and he's like, that guy's not a leader. He's not. He's a great wingman, but he's probably not the one who's going to lead you out the fire. Good dude. Right, but not leading you out the fire. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. So Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
In my mind, it's inevitable that we will have a return of the virus, or maybe it never even went away. When it does, how we handle it will determine our fate.
Oh, you guys know who that is? That's Dr. Fauci. So if it never goes away, then what happens? How do we can't live like this. I mean, can we all agree, whether you think that we should shelter in place and listen to everything that everybody says to the point where they're the only ones, there is no other contradicting evidence out there, even though there may be, but we're just going to ignore it, and that this is it. Can we all agree, though, we can't live like this forever? Well, it's not forever, Chad. It's just until we get a vaccine. Vaccine's a ways away. What are you trying to say? I'm just saying human beings have a point where they're going to start to break. They are. They have a point. At some point, they're going to go, all right, I can't do this anymore. Some of it may be mental because they feel like they're being caged in. Some of it may be financial. I think there's a good portion of that. But we just can't hide from it. And I feel like that's what we've done. Now, I hear Doug Ducey, our governor, have done everything that's been asked because that's the route that we took. And each state did their own thing. Some clamped down a lot harder than others. See Michigan and a few others. Others, a little bit more loose and going to start to loosen the regulations as they move forward. But that's the way we've chose to go. And I got zero problems with that. I said, look, we pick a lane, we go, we stick with it. But you also want to know there's an off-ramp at some point in time. And that's the fear that so many people have is this off-ramp is where? And Fauci, doctors are going to err on the side of caution. Dr. Birx, while a doctor, is also as much a politician. Fauci's not. This is what he does. It'll be interesting to see how the states handle this as we open ourselves up. But the question that needs to be answered that isn't even being asked at times is the second wave or the continuous first wave, as Fauci just put, is going to happen. And at what point do we go and say, okay, we got to go back in? And how do you put that genie back in the bottle with small business owners, with big business, with people who are watching their dreams go up in flames, with people worried about losing their homes, losing their cars, watching everything get eviscerated? And they're no longer standing on a solid, absolutely amazing foundation. They're now standing on something that is crumbling and falling away, and they're just freaking out. And there's going to have to be some serious questions. What are they when it comes to the second wave? Is the second wave a situation where we just look around and say, all right, those of you who are healthy between 18 and 55, and this is where the data would be helpful if we get the numbers right on who's really at severe risk. And I think we know what it is, which is people who are morbidly obese. And we're not talking about 20 or 30 pounds overweight. We're talking about people who are really overweight. People that are older. People with underlying health conditions. Compromised immune system. Things of that nature. Is that the conversation we start to have? Outside of that, everybody else, we're going to keep some of these social distancing things in place, but you go about your life normally. Everybody else needs to isolate. That's a possibility. But we do need to start having questions about the next phase when it's challenged with a spike. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at us. Love hearing from all of you. Love and hate. I'm good with either. It's okay. I can take it.
Unlike most countries in the world, Sweden decided against a mandatory shutdown. And instead, they just told their citizens to be responsible and keep their distance. There have been upsides and downsides to this approach. On the downside, Sweden has experienced almost triple the deaths of its neighboring countries who did impose lockdowns. But on the upside, the Swedish ambassador has now said that Stockholm could achieve herd immunity by May. And herd immunity is when so many people have immunity that the disease can't spread as easily anymore.
Yeah, and it's not. Here's the other thing about the herd immunity that people need to understand. It's not just you've had it. In many cases, you've been exposed to it in so many times that you've built up the antibodies without actually catching it. Oh, my. So remember, the worst case scenario that was painted by all of these models, 300 million Americans didn't catch it. It wasn't because they weren't exposed. I mean, a good majority of people now have been, I would say pretty much 99% of the population has been exposed to this. Why is it that a majority of people don't catch it? Sweden's taken a different approach. And while their numbers are higher, they've said, look, where we made a mistake is, and if you look at the numbers and their death rate, first of all, they're double the size of Norway and Denmark. You're looking at, okay, so that's something there. Secondly, and this is important, is they said, look, we didn't take care of the elderly the way we should have. We should have been more thoughtful in the way that we approach this when it comes to not just the elderly and people with compromised immune system, but also towards the immigrant community, which is where they suffered a huge amount of deaths and problems in the Somali community because they're generational. They have several generations living in a home. That's not Sweden's thing. Very homogenized society. A lot of people live on their own. They don't have a lot of density as far as people living together. So it was easier for them in a lot of ways because they kind of already social distance. But it's an interesting way because they said, look, at the end of the day, well, they are higher in their death rate. All the other surrounding countries and elsewhere are going to get to the same place doing what they're doing because they're not getting away from the virus. They're just hiding from it.
So Sweden's plan is sure to set off a big philosophical debate. Should countries get slammed by coronavirus quickly and then get it over with? Or should they try to spread out the pain over a longer period of time? And look, I hope Sweden is right and every other country is wrong. Because if they are right, then we can end the lockdown and finally get back to our normal lives.
Yeah. And I think Sweden, to me, this was the path I would have taken. With precautions in place when it comes to the elderly, people with compromised immune systems. And I think their approach is right. And the way they look at it is our economy is still going. Kids have gone to school. And they look at kids and school as they're the super spreaders. Very rarely does it affect children in a negative way. And they're the super spreaders. So they're the ones who you're going to be exposed to the most. Because of that, you have a chance of building up antibodies along the way. And that herd immunity is that one thing that we don't have to worry about trials on. Maybe they're wrong, but maybe they're right. And the numbers, I think, will bear out over the coming weeks and months. And they feel like, hey, once we get out of this, our economy is going to look much different. And it's going to take off. Several other people who look at the way that they've done things have said, New York would probably been in the same place. It might have been a little bit worse here, a little bit better for them in some areas. But by and large, they were going to end up in the same place that they are now. And a lot of that has to do with the density and the lifestyle. So we'll see if when it reemerges, because it's going to, do states take the kind of approach that Sweden does? A little different in the way that they live. Very homogenized society, right? But it's a very interesting approach. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at me. MyPillow, doing something amazing. So Mike Lindell over at MyPillow is now making things, PPEs for all of the first responders and the healthcare workers. So he's changed his production line to do that. And in doing so, he wants to move stuff out of the warehouse and into your homes. He's doing a buy one, get one on all of his items. So the Supima MyPillows, the Giza towels and Dream Sheets, which are amazing. The MyPillow towels, the roll and go anywhere pillows, duvet covers, you name it. It's a buy one, get one free. With it, you get a 10-year warranty, a 60-day money-back guarantee, and it's all made right here in the U.S. of A. Now, When you go to the MyPillow.com radio listener special page, use promo code Benson. When you're on your way checking out, if you order Mike's book, you get an entire MyPillow order that you just ordered is going to ship for free. You get a $25 gift card towards your next purchase. Go to MyPillow.com, MyPillow.com. Use the promo code Benson. Again, it's buy one, get one pricing on everything with a 60-day money-back guarantee. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
Experiencing separation anxiety? That's dumb. Check out Chad 24/7 at his website, ChadBensonShow.com, and on iTunes, free. The Chad Benson Show. Never feel lonely again.
American president loses more Americans over the course of 6 weeks than died in the entirety of the Vietnam War. Does he deserve to be reelected?
So, yeah, we've lost a lot of people, but if you look at what original projections were, 2.2 million, we're probably heading to 60,000, 70,000. It's far too many. One person is too many for this.
That's such a loaded question, right? I mean, it's don't you think? I know there's going to be investigations. What did he know? What didn't he know? How long did he know about them?
Important reporting from the Washington Post that more than a dozen reports in the president's daily brief in early January and February went to the president warning about what was happening in China, warning about the global effects economically and public health effects. Basically ignored it was during a time when the president was downplaying the warnings that were coming. And in fact, it's called the president's daily brief for a reason. It's supposed to be read daily. This president has been taking it only a couple of times a week and clearly did not heed these warnings.
No, he didn't. And so there's going to be all kinds of stuff. Did he ignore it on purpose? Did he think it wasn't a big deal? Yeah, absolutely. I didn't think the way he's handled some of this stuff has been great. I also think that there's been a lot of panic porn where people freaked out about this. And let's not forget that the World Health Organization kind of poo-pooed this. Oh, don't worry. There's no need to panic or worry because this thing isn't transmitted from human to human. Well, that was wrong. Could it have been handled better? Absolutely. But it is time for the election. It is coming. Can't stop that. Trump's got to figure out how he goes about using this to his advantage if he wants to be reelected. Then on the other side, you've got Joe Biden. Joe Biden right now would be in the crosshairs of everybody had it not been for the coronavirus, which is saving his ass because Tara Reade's allegations, if you don't know what they are very real. As far as she's concerned, it seems weird now to character. Again, you try to put together the stories of all of these things, but the reality is based on what she's saying took place with her and Joe Biden back in 1993. Those are real questions. Way, way stronger than what they accused Kavanaugh. And everybody's trying to dance around the issue. Don Lemon got serious about it. And if this story of coronavirus wasn't everywhere all the time 24/7, this would be bigger.
That she was delivering Biden a duffel bag and says that Biden had her up against the wall in the corridor on the Hill and violated her. Now, CNN has now spoken on the record with her former neighbor who says Reid told her about the allegation within a few years of the alleged incident. Biden's campaign says untrue, never happened.
Right? Stacey Abrams. Remember, Democrats, Kavanaugh, got to believe the woman. No, you have to listen. You have to believe anybody. You listen and see whether or not it's credible. But remember how they went against Kavanaugh.
Is this a credible allegation?
I believe that women deserve to be heard, and I believe that they need to be listened to. But I also believe that those allegations have to be investigated by credible sources. The New York Times did a deep investigation, and they found that the accusation was not credible. I believe Joe Biden. I believe that he is a person who has demonstrated that his love of family, his love of community has been made perfectly clear through his work. I know Joe Biden, and I think that he is telling the truth and that this did not happen.
Yeah, see? So, and remember the story that New York Times did. They flip-flopped and did some stuff after the campaign called and bitched, whined, and moaned.
In 2018, you tweeted it was shameful that Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court nomination was being rushed forward and survivors of violence like Christine Blasey Ford deserve to have their voices heard. Are you applying a different standard now?
Not at all. Tara Reade deserved to have her story listened to and investigated. What was happening to Christine Blasey Ford was that there was no investigation. There was a rush to move the conversation forward so that no investigation was conducted.
Little hypocrisy there. This would be much bigger. It would be. Biden needs to come out. Now every woman that's campaigning, because remember, he says he's going to have vice president candidate that's going to be a woman, has to come out and defend him. All the while they slammed the Republicans in Kavanaugh. That's a tricky place to be. This is the hypocrisy. No, if you guys do it, it's 100% true. If this side does it, our side, then she's a lying bleepity bleep. There's the world of hypocrisy. Stacey Abrams, we know, is running to be vice president. Does she need to be heard? I think all people should be heard if they've got allegations. Doesn't mean you believe all people. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The United Food and Commercial Workers International Union says President Trump's order forcing meat processing plants to remain open puts workers' lives in jeopardy. Jan McComb is the commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Health.
At a time when we're seeing such explosive increases in numbers of cases and the impacts on surrounding communities, it seems problematic.
According to the union, 20 food processing workers have died of COVID-19 nationwide. More than 6,500 have already been sickened or exposed to the virus.
Yeah. Are we going to have a meat shortage? What? Is that going to happen? Is people worried about? And it's not because we don't have enough meat. They don't even know what to do with the meat at this point in time. They don't. Trump decided, hey, I got to make sure that we take care of this stuff. So we're going to have the Meat Defense Production Act.
President Trump using his authorities under the Defense Production Act. Those plants must remain open. Many of those plants have become among the major hotspots in the pandemic in the United States. Thousands of meatpacking workers have come down with the disease. At least 19 have died. And this now will compel them to remain open.
We like meat. People running out buying meat, toilet paper, all this. It's running out. But people just take a deep breath. Has nothing to do with over demand. I mean, there's a lot of demand right now. In fact, was it last week, Tyson, or the week before, because of the cancellation of March Madness, they had too many chicken wings. Bought a bunch of chicken wings. My lizards love chicken wings. It's perfect size for them to gobble down the bone, the whole 9 yards. But too much. So people are going to go overstock. It has to do much like when you see oil and gas. Has to do with the refineries. It's the actual facilities themselves. It's kind of a weird, condensed, concentrated industry. So when one place has an issue, that's a big thing.
The president responding to the possibility, the very real possibility, that America's food chain would break, that in just a matter of weeks there would be no meat on grocery store shelves. Not a matter of supply, but of distribution, because there is great concentration in the meatpacking industry. Just a few plants going down can bring that food chain to a halt.
And you've seen that in places here in the West Coast where a refinery goes offline for a couple days, gas prices rise when they switch over to different blends, and sometimes when there's an issue and they go down for a week or two. What ends up happening? That chain is broken. Same thing on the East Coast in certain areas and throughout the South and the Southwest and through Texas and stuff. You have a chain, and when it gets disrupted, doesn't mean there's not enough of it. Doesn't mean there's an overdemand of it. It just means it's getting it to you. And people panic. But closing, opening, the Tyson meat plant's a big one. And if you watch, I was watching some of the meat plant the other day. Meat Plant. Good name for a band. What's up, everybody? Meat Plant. And Meatloaf's cousin. So they're side by side, like shoulder to shoulder in these facilities. That's also an issue. When you look and see who is paying the biggest price when it comes to this disease, prisons, hotspot. Why? Side by side, crammed in, confined space, tons of hours. Nursing homes, don't go anywhere, confined space, people with underlying conditions. And when I saw the way that they were working, I was like, whoa, that's insane. I mean, I knew they were close. I didn't know they were that close.
This is about the people that work there.
Gary Harris is a 20-year employee of the now-shuttered Tyson meat plant in Logansport, Indiana. He's worried his health and that of his coworkers are being unnecessarily endangered.
Before they talk about reopening, they should make sure safety is first.
The United Food and Commercial Workers Union, or UFCW, says 20 workers have already died of the virus. But with meatpacking plants around the country facing slowdowns and closures, those working there are now considered to be essential employees.
How do they do it, though? That's just it. How do they make sure that they're safe? Social distancing is something that they talk about. It's tough.
Not every job can be socially distant in a plant.
Mark Lauritsen represents meat processing plant workers for the UFCW. He says Washington has a responsibility to protect the workers as well as the companies.
They took a step that said, we're going to have these plants open and operating and running. They got to take the next step to making sure enforceable OSHA standards, enforceable standards from the CDC.
Absolutely. They have to make sure. And it's very interesting because when you really think about it, think about your job. And this goes back to another situation that we've talked about with the confined area is side by side next to each other. So where I am, I'm in my studio by myself. I do another show and I'm in the studio 5 feet away from my other on-air partner. And through the glass, we have our producers. My producer for my national show, Anthony, Sacramento, California. I'm in Phoenix. My technical producer, Phil, Arlington, Virginia. I'm here. I see very few people. Even when everything's up and running, if you walk through an average office, you're not on top of each other. You've got cubes. This is shoulder to shoulder. And that is a scary thing when you go about, wow, I see how certain things spread. That's why you look at New York. What is New York? How is New York different than a place, say, like where I am, Phoenix or Cedar Rapids, Iowa, or Orlando, or even Dallas? Building out, not up. You look at New York on a regular day pre-coronavirus, hundreds of thousands of people side by side walking down a street. Getting in elevators, getting out of elevators. You juxtapose that against a place like Dallas or Cedar Rapids where you see your family, you go to work, unless you're working in a meatpacking industry where you're side by side in a manufacturing, chances are you're going about your day and you're not on top of each other. And it shows you those confined spaces are truly a hot spot when it comes to the spread of this thing. So don't panic. I don't think it's time to panic at all. They'll tell you, don't panic.
I know everybody's saying that you should panic, but I don't think you should panic.
If you want to feel a little more comfortable, buy a few more steaks, buy some more cans of tuna fish and beans and so forth for your pantry. But I don't think there's any reason to panic right now.
Yeah, that's Stu Leonard Jr., who's a businessman, CEO of Stu Leonard's big supermarket chain, saying, hey, everybody calm down. We're going to be all right. We're going to be okay. And I think that's what we need to start getting back to. We're going to be all right. We're going to be okay. Everything is we're going to get through this. The panic doesn't do us any good. Nobody makes a good decision on crazy emotions, right? Have you ever done something that's just based solely on an emotion, and then you wake up the next day and you're like, why did I do that? Why did I just based solely? Why? And that's why panicking, and we need to learn how to take a step back and breathe, which a lot of times we don't. And that's why we get into situations we get into.
Coronavirus kept Americans indoors and commerce largely shut down. The U.S. economy contracted by 4.8% last quarter. The quarterly drop in GDP is the first in 6 years, and it was the sharpest fall since the fourth quarter of 2008, when the economy shrank by 8.4%. Many economists believe this is only the beginning, though, since the latest Commerce Department report covers January through March. More businesses shut down in April, and layoffs came by the millions.
Yeah. So what does that look like the next time we roll this out for second quarter? I think what we look at is probably 30%, 35%, some people are saying, but maybe it's 20, 25%. Still probably combined anywhere between 30 and 40% contraction in our economy in the first quarter and second quarter combined. Now, economists are thinking third quarter is going to pick up, and you might get half of that back in the third, and maybe, so you get 15% back in the third with a spike, albeit, it's not going to be 30%, and then maybe another 5 to 7%, maybe even 10% in the fourth. So overall, year to year, the contraction may only be 5%, but this second quarter coming up that we're in the midst of is going to be the ugliest we've ever seen, probably worse than anything we saw since the Depression. The difference between the Depression then and now is we're in a situation where we had a good foundation. It wasn't built on a house of cards. The foundation is good, and while it'll take a while to get back, we will jump back quickly in 2 quarters to make it so it doesn't look as devastating. It's like you drop, you want to lose 35 pounds. You drop 25 easy. Those last 10, though, no matter what it is, that doesn't seem to come off. That's going to be the tough thing, getting back to where we were. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. You can text the program as well. Wounded Paw Project is an amazing organization. I've been working with them going on about a year and a half. God, that's a long time, actually, much longer than that. But just an incredible organization that does something that is just so amazing. They rescue dogs, so dogs that would otherwise be euthanized, and train them. They take them from shelter dogs and turn them into service dogs. And it's a lot of work. I saw a guy yesterday training a service dog, and that's a lot of work, especially when they're young, because the service dog in training wasn't having any of it. He took off for running. The old guy was chasing him. And I'm like, that's a lot of work. Wounded Paw does that work. And what do? They get those dogs to the people that need them, our first responders, our veterans, and their families. They could use your help. Now, you can go to smile.amazon.com. You can set your supporting group to Wounded Paw Project. You can also give cash. You can go to woundedpawproject.org, find out how you can do that. But see all the great works they're doing. Their motto is to save a paw is to save a life. And I'm telling you, they're doing so much. They're saving animals, and they're giving them a second chance at life, and they're helping our first responders, veterans, and their families. Woundedpawproject.org. Woundedpawproject.org. Chad Benson Show.
You, he, she, it. Lucy is a girl.
Point of personal privilege. Please do not use gendered language to address everyone.
Shut up, boo. Ain't nobody got time for that.
This is the Chad Benson Show.
You know, we need to find more things that we share as Americans, and we can all be part of this solution. You know, one thing that worries me a great deal is everything has gotten politicized. Politics, every single aspect of our lives, from pop culture to Hollywood to comedy to music, and it's ripping us apart. But we don't have to let it, okay? We don't have to click on that emotional headline. We don't have to give the media and the social media companies the financial incentives that they use to make us all outraged and mad at each other.
That is Dan Crenshaw. Like him. He's an interesting character, to say the least. He really sprung into the cultural headlines and became more than just a congressperson when Pete Davidson ripped him on Saturday Night Live. And, of course, you remember the kerfuffle there. And he said, look, I don't want this guy fired. And everybody's like, oh, we should cancel culture this guy. And he's like, no, that's ridiculous. And he's right. Man, this is the thing. Even in this time of partisan divide, there is an enemy, if you will, invisible, that we should all be saying, all right, let's be in this together. But we're not. A lot of people on the right think it's not a hoax, but it's not as bad as people say it is. And people on the left think, oh, my God, it's the worst thing ever. Trump's the worst thing ever. Because of this, he's killed hundreds of thousands. I mean, here's the reality of it. We're never going to know the exact truth of how many people have caught this or passed away from it. Just like you go back and look at the numbers from the Spanish flu. People challenge those numbers today, say it was more towards 12 million, not 50 million. But it's here. We've got to deal with it, and we should do it together. We all are in this thing together, whether we like it or not, being in the same room, in the same situation. We're in this thing together.
We can stop and we can think about that headline. We can look into it more. Most of all, encourage your Democrat friends to look into it more. Say, hey, do you really think that the president actually means this? Or do you think maybe that's what the media wants you to think that he means? You know, do you really think that he's this evil person? Do you really think that the other side is truly bad people? Of course not.
No. I don't think my thing with Trump is I don't think he's handled this thing the way that he should have. And I think at times he's Jack the Pooch. On the other side of things, I think that the way that they portray him is ridiculous. He doesn't show empathy like other people do. My mom's that way. My mom is very kind of stoic. She is, so my on-air partner for my other show, his mother passed away. He did the most amazing thing for his mom on air the other day. It was incredible. It was tear-jerking. I mean, it was amazing. I joke with my mom, like, you're not getting that. She's like, that's not who we are. Right? Like, that's not who we are. Doesn't mean my mother doesn't care. Doesn't mean she doesn't have love. It's just some people don't show empathy the way he's painted out by a lot of people, I think is wrong. But the media plays the game and Trump plays it back, and they both feed off one another like it's a horrible relationship. You ever met two people? You're like, you guys should be nowhere near being in a relationship, yet they are, because it's just something about that chemistry and the excitement and the anger and everything is emotion and it's always on 120%, but it doesn't work.
We have slightly different ways of looking at things, and encourage people to dig a few layers deep. Remember that a lot of our goals are the same. We might just have different ways of finding those solutions, and remind people to, again, be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Live with the sense of duty going forward, making sure you're washing your hands correctly. Put your shopping cart back so the clerks at the grocery store don't have to. The little things really matter now, especially as we try to get out of this crisis.
Dan Crenshaw, Congressman, he's absolutely right. We're all trying to get to the same place. We want this thing gone. We want as less people as affected that can possibly be. We want to return our lives back to normal so we can argue and fight like normally we used to. But we don't need to be at each other's throats. I think we need to remember that. We're going to get through this. We are in it together, whether we like it or not. So try to understand. what somebody who doesn't have your point of view in the way that things are being handled, why they feel that way? Because too often than not, people explode and out of emotion they say things that in many cases they just don't mean. Have a great rest of your day. We got you over the hump, as we always do. Feel free to text me, 323-538-CHAD. Of course, you can tweet at us at Chad Benson Show. Check out the Facebook as well. Have a blessed, wonderful rest of your day. Night-night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.